So not too long ago, I unboxed the Lenovo Legion 7i. I took all of your questions, I gave it an overview and talked about some of its specifications. But today, we're finally gonna do the review. And I know there's a lot of issues from other reviews about this laptop, and we're gonna clarify all of them in this video. But before I do that, we gotta get this out of the way, okay? Are you ready? Here we go. 5i, 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 5i. Let me know if you can do it faster. The first thing I want to talk about is the build quality. It is pretty solid. The only cause for concern is the keyboard deck. The display has a bit of wobble to it, but it's no different than most other laptops. It's just the keyboard deck. Like, this is a bit too squishy for my liking. A lot of you had concerns about the touchpad, saying you watched a few other reviews and that when you press down on the top of the touchpad, it leaves a little gap. And yes, it absolutely does. And this has me kind of concerned for longevity. Is this going to break on you down the road? So what I did was I pulled out all the gaming laptops I have in the studio and started pressing my fingers on the touchpad. I found on most of them, they did not have a gap at the top of the touchpad, except for the MSI GS75. This is a 2018 model, which means I've been personally using it for 3 years. And it had a gap at the top. Does it feel cheap? Absolutely. Has the laptop or touchpad broken on me? No. So I don't think it's gonna break on you, but it's definitely not gonna feel refined. Now, I also got 2 questions about the ports on this laptop. The first one was whether or not the USB Type-C Thunderbolt 3 ports can be charged using power delivery, and the answer is no. If you want to charge this laptop, you have to use the power connector on the back. The second question was whether or not this laptop had an audio jack, and the answer is yes. It's also on the left-hand side. This is a combo jack, which means it works with headphones and microphones. The display wasn't a major issue because the color accuracy, color gamut is on point with this laptop. It has great screen brightness and it looks fantastic when you're gaming. The only concerns you had was whether or not this laptop supported G-Sync, and this model here specifically does not support G-Sync at all. You also wanted to know whether or not the camera up here supported Windows Hello, and it does not. There is no Windows Hello options on my specific unit, whether it's with the fingerprint scanner or using the webcam on top. Performance has been pretty good on this laptop. Like, the 2080 Super Max Q inside of here is doing the job it should. It's not the fastest one I've tested, but it's not the slowest either. No matter what game I threw at this, high settings, full HD, it was crushing it. Like, no frame drops, no lag. It just was a very enjoyable gaming experience. The only cause for concern is that some games can get a little hot, like 94 degrees Celsius, but I'm running most of these games on performance mode, which is in line with other laptops that are set to performance mode. For example, the HP Omen 15, even the MSI GS66, enters over 90 if you leave it on performance mode. One of you asked me about Valorant, and this computer completely crushes it, like over 200 frames per second. It's not an issue at all, considering the game is really well optimized. Now, in terms of content creation, it did an okay job. I think there's better laptops out there if that's your main focus, but if you plan on gaming on this first and content creation second, it's fine. Like, Photoshop, for example, was neck and neck with the Asus Zephyrus G14, and same held true with Adobe Premiere Pro. The only cause for concern is that the G14 is using an RTX 2060 Max-Q, and this guy is using an RTX 2080. It just shows me that Adobe is still very, very CPU dependent. Now, the most question I got was about thermal throttling. A bunch of you watched other reviews and they were saying the laptop was thermal throttling, so I decided to do my own tests. And yes, when it starts to get too hot, initially it will start to thermal throttle, but after a few minutes, it will switch from thermal throttling to power throttling. The thing is, as long as frames are not being dropped or the clock speeds are not going below base clock and you're not affecting your gameplay or the content creation that you're doing, then it's not a big deal. The only cause for concern is that in balanced mode, the CPU was above 90 degrees for too long. I think balanced mode, the CPU should sit around 85 to 86. It took way too long for it to get below 90. If you drop it to battery saving mode, or quiet mode rather, then yeah, it's gonna reduce the clock speeds below 2 gigahertz, which is not the fastest for performance, but you'll get significantly better temperatures. When it comes to noise, it actually does pretty well. It doesn't get as loud as a Acer Predator Helios 300 and 60 decibels, but it maintains around 55 decibels when it's under load on performance mode. If you want to drop the fan noise, if you're doing regular productivity because you're in class and you want this laptop to stay quiet, switch it to quiet mode and fan noise will be around 40 decibels. Totally forgot to talk about this in my video, but one of you asked me about battery life. I got 4 hours and 50 minutes with IQ software off, that's the RGB. And if you turn it back on, I got about 4 hours and 27 minutes. So not that big of a difference if you're using the RGB. Now, would I recommend this laptop? I'd probably hold off for a bit. I don't think it's a bad laptop, it just needs some fine tuning. I'd wait and see if Lenovo issues a software update first. Don't buy it hoping they do. Wait first to see if they actually release one. As for the quality control, I hope future units reinforce the deck of the keyboard so that there's no gaping hole when you press down on the touchpad. I hope I answered all of your questions. If you have any more, let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. 7i, 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 7i.